Hello, everyone. Welcome to class 5. All right, this is our journey in software development. We are developing with Dart, Flutter, and Firebase. And as you already know, with what you're learning in this free training tutorials, you're going to start building cross-platform applications. That means you can build for Android, you can build for iOS, you can build for web, you can build for desktop console applications. So this is an amazing place to start with as a software developer. Okay, so without wasting much time, today we'll be talking about types and operations. Okay, you know, I have mentioned it before. I've mentioned it before that we will be talking about types, okay, because we have mentioned some types before now, but we'll be talking about types later and then some operations that on it. So, but before I go talk about types that has to do with that in particular, I want to say something about what data types really is. Okay, now the thing is this: every computer architecture must have types, data types, and operations that can be operated on those data. You know, we already said that computer is you give data, it processes data, it outputs data. So the thing is this: what type of data? All right, you know, life is full of varieties. All right, your toothpaste have a lot of varieties, close up, whatever, there are plenty. All right, your designer shirt has plenty. You have plenty of them. You're even a lot. Okay, everything has varieties, and the same thing here applies to data types. Okay, data has different representations. Some can be in decimal form. That means they have decimal points. Okay, some can just be integer, they don't have decimal points. Some can be letters, characters. How do you represent your name, the address of your street? How do you represent the name of your employees? Things like this. Okay, so there is every data type. There are certain data types that every computer programming language must have. All right, and sometimes some programming language also have data types that other programming language don't have. But for that, we'll be discussing different data types. Okay, now the first one that we already know is the int. Okay, we have seen int, whereby int is something like this. Okay, I have to clear this. All right, we have seen int, whereby when you want to declare a variable, but the thing is this: please, when you're declaring variables, always make them constants for performance reasons. Okay, you might not understand what I'm saying, but always make them constants. Now, the way it works is this: if you make it constant and later you want to make a change, you remember constant variables are variables that do not change. So if along the line you now want to make a change, the compiler will tell you, okay, so then you cannot change it from constant. You can now remove the constant from the constant keyword so that it will no longer be constant. But make sure that every time you declare a variable, try to make it a constant. And then if later you want to, if there's any need that data will be changing, then you cannot remove the const keyword. Okay, so let's say I want to talk about my age. Now, our age is always in this form: 12, 100, 150. We don't have age that is 15.5. No. So that is why I want to store the age, and the value of this age is 12. So what data type will be best for it? It is an integer. All right. So my variable age, the data type is integer. Okay, so if you want to represent store values that are of this type, use integer. If you want to store values that have decimal points, you use double. Something like if I want to say pi, okay, something like pi 3.14, okay, you use double. No, so this is another data type. All right, so imagine if I want to use int, if I use int as the data type here, you see, I'm getting an error here. Say a value of type double can be assigned to a variable of type int. So the best data type here is double. All right. Okay. So we can also talk about the norm. Okay. There's another data type called norm. Now the thing is this. Norm, let's say salary. This norm data type. This non-data type is a parent. When we talk about classes and class hierarchy, you're going to understand what I mean by parent and children, okay? If you want to store with this norm data type, you can store integer or double, all right? This is an integer. Now, this 4,000 is an integer. If I make it 0, 0, if I add decimal point, it is a double. But you can see we don't have any error. Forget about the warnings. Okay, just that we have not used this variable. That's why we are getting this warning. But you can see we don't have any issue here. So if you don't really know exactly whether you're not too sure whether it will be an integer or a double, but somehow it might have some decimal. It might be some decimal numbers. Please use norm. But if you're very sure, just be more specific with int or double. Okay, so but look at it. If I use int now, there will be an error here. You see, okay. If I use double, there will be no problem because it's a double. And if I use norm, there will be no problem. All right. So these are the first 3 data types that we have. Now we also have dynamic. Okay, we have another type that we call dynamic. But before I go into this dynamic, I want you to understand this. Okay. That programming language was actually created to make JavaScript better. It was created to solve most of the problems JavaScript has. And JavaScript, okay, is a dynamically typed language. What do I mean? With JavaScript, variables can have different data types. One variable, you can add any data type in it. So let me give you, this is JavaScript code. All right, this might give us an error, but let me tell you something. If I want to declare a variable in JavaScript, I can say let a is equal to person. Okay, now this is in JavaScript, this is a valid statement, but here it is giving me an error, but I want to let you know something. So you can see that the type here is string. I can also, if it is in JavaScript, I can also reassign A to be 87, and there will be no problem. Do you understand? In JavaScript, you can see I have changed the type, but if I do this for that, there will be a problem. So that is why I said JavaScript is a dynamically typed language that I will come to that, okay? Because that is also, it's an optionally typed language. I'm going to explain that later, but I want you to understand what I mean by dynamically typed language. The thing is this, it is at runtime that this whole thing will be evaluated, okay? So, but it causes a lot of errors. So that is an optionally typed language. What does it mean? It can be dynamically typed, it can be statically typed. So it depends on what you want. Sometimes you might not know the data type of the value you want to value you want to use. You might not know. Okay, sometimes you might be reading data from the database or from the network. You might not really know. So that is why they have that type dynamic. Okay, so the dynamic, how do you create it? You give it the data type dynamic, and I can say name, and I can do pause in here. Okay. All right, now watch. If I say name again, name is equal to 87, there will be no problem because it is dynamically typed here. The first 3 like this, the first 3 here, they are statically typed. You have given it this type, num, double, or int. You cannot change the value and give it a value that is of a different data type. But if you look at here, dynamically typed, person here is a string. Okay, person here is a string, all right, and 89 here is a number, but there was no problem here. Okay, but try as much as possible to avoid this. Okay, try as much as possible to use statically typed data type because it will really help prevent errors, especially at runtime, and it prevents errors. So please, but if in cases where you do not know what the value is, there is no way you can know. You just use dynamic, okay? All right. So so let's talk about strings, okay? All right, so we will have to talk about strings later, all right? In this same training, in this same class, we'll talk about strings later, but let's talk about objects, okay? Let's talk about objects. Now, although we'll be talking about class later, but I want you to understand there is also a data type called object. This object is every data type in that is an object. They all inherit from objects. So if I say object and I give it name, and then, so I have name here already. If I say title, and I give it this title, Mrs. And I come again, I can change this title to be 45. Why? Because an integer is an object. A string is an object. Okay, so it won't be any problem. So this thing somehow wants to look like the dynamic. But the thing is, later you're going to understand that object is their parent. Okay, object is, the object data type is their parent. Okay, so all of them derive, all of them inherit from the object. Okay, we also have another one. The nullable objects. Okay, this one. Okay, we'll be talking about nullability later. So let's leave it. Okay, let me not confuse you more. We'll be talking about nullability later. Okay, so we also have custom types. We also have custom type. That one we'll be discussing class. That one you use class to create your own data type. Okay, you use class to create your own data type. So just have it at the back of your mind. We have custom types, we have strings, and we have the nullable object, but we'll be discussing that later. So later in a later class, we'll just dedicate that class to classes, and you're going to see how you can create your own data type. For now, these are the data types that provides for you. We also have the Boolean type, but we'll not discuss it here. We'll discuss it later in a later class, okay? All right, so we have already mentioned about type safety, and you have seen it here, whereby I cannot, if I make this thing a string, sorry that we have not discussed about string, but we'll see how, if I say that the data type is a string, you can see here I'm having an error because I am reassigning an integer to a string. So this is what we mean by type safety, okay? Now we have also talked about type inference, where you don't need, we talked about type inference in our previous class. We also talked about constant variable. Okay, make sure that you really understand this thing. So the next thing we're going to talk about is, you know, how do you check the data type of, your variables, maybe at runtime, okay? At runtime, how do you do that, okay? Let's say I want to check if my age is an integer. What do I do? Let me print so that we can see the result. I will say, okay, okay, let me store it in a variable. I will say is true. This is a Boolean. Okay, I don't want to confuse you more. Let me just print it. Okay, now I want to know, is age is int. Now this is how you confirm. Okay, now this is how you confirm if a variable is of a particular type. Okay, you use the is keyword, but here that is already telling me that this type check is unnecessary because it will always return true. Okay, so that means age is an int. But let me use norm. Let me do norm. Let me use the salary that is a norm data type. Now here, you know, in the other one, age, the data type of age was an int, so it was obvious. Okay, I think I can still go back to that, but I will just make a little change here. Let me still do age, but let me not give this age okay, it is still the same thing because that compiler is already it's already inferring the type for you. So, but here, you know, I told you that with the num data type, you can add, you can assign an integer or a double. So here we want to know which data type is salary. Is salary an int? Okay. But you know, this our salary here is a double. So the answer we are going to get is going to be false because it is not an integer. So if I do this, watch my console, you can see the answer here is false. But if I say is salary double, all right, if I say salary double, if I run this, it is going to give me true. All right, this is how you know, this is how you check. All right, because sometimes you might be like, oh, I am not too sure, because sometimes as you have a data type here as num, and you can either store integer or double, you might want to perform an operation. Let's say you want to check whether it is, whether the number, whether the variable is an even number. Okay, now let's do this. Let's do this. Let me take this thing back to let me make this salary an integer. If I want to, okay, let me take it back to double. I want us to have an error here. I want us to have an error so that I will not show you why we are having that error. Let me say I want to print salary. I'm looking for the integer data type has this is even. Okay, that is even method checks whether the variable is an even number. So if I say salary dot is, I cannot see it. I can't see it because it is not here. Okay, I can't see that is even because it is not an integer. But if I do age dot is, you can see we have this is even. So if I print this, I will get it. So some properties are not available. Okay, some properties are not available in the num, but they are specifically available for the int or for the double. So that is the reason why you would sometimes you want to check what is really the data type. You have to perform that check before you can do something with it. Because if I want to, because this is a num and I cannot get the even, so I would want to convert it to an integer before I will not call it is even property on it. But you can say, unless I know the data type before I can convert. So sometimes you need to check these things. So the next thing we're going to talk about here is now you can also at runtime, you can also do this. Okay, instead of using age is okay. If instead of saying age is int, okay, you can also do age dot runtime type. So if I use age dot runtime type, it's going to give me the data type of this age. It's an integer. All right. If I say pi, what is at runtime? What is the runtime type of pi? It will give me double. If I say what is the runtime type of salary, it will give me num. Oh, sorry, it is giving me double here because this is double. Okay, it is double. All right. So that is it. That is it. Because the value I stored in this salary variable is a double. That's why it's giving me double. All right. You know, there's let's talk about conversion. Okay. Sometimes you want to convert. Look at this, salary here is a double. Okay, let's use the pi. Pi is a double. Sometimes you would want to convert from a double to an integer. But the thing is this, be very, very careful. If you do that kind of conversion, all right, you will lose the decimal point that is available. So let's do this. Let's do this so that you can really get what I'm saying. Let's say I want to, the pi, I want to convert it to an integer. So I will say pi dot to int. Pi dot to int. All right. With this, I'm going to convert with this pi.toInt method. I'm going to convert this pi to an integer. But look at it. The result we are going to get here, as we are printing the result out, is going to be 3 instead of 3.14. So you are losing data. So be very, very careful. Be very, very careful. If you're doing pi times whatever, all right, and you first of all convert it to, you have lost data. 3.14 can be a very big source of error. So when you're making this conversion, be very, very careful. Unless you're ready to lose the data, you can go on with it. But be very, very careful when you're making conversions from double to int, because you're going to lose data. Okay? Because you're going to lose data. All right, so let's talk about strings. Let's talk about strings. All right. Remember, I have a textbook for you. All right. So, like I said, if you need it, I've always said this. If you need it, chat me up on WhatsApp, and I will give you the PDF of the material. So let's talk about a string. You know, we have been talking about other data type, but we have not mentioned how do you represent things like characters, things like the address of your home, things like your name, your things like that, things that has to do with characters. The data type for it is the string, okay? And how do you declare a string? As simple as this. This is called string literal. As simple as the string, you say name is equal to person. You have declared a string. Okay, so the data type here, the data type of this name variable is a string. That's the data type, okay? Now, you can either use double quotes or single quotes. Here I am using double quotes. I can also use single quotes instead of double. I can use single quotes. It is perfectly fine. You can use double quotes or single quotes, anyone that you prefer, but try to stick to one. And sometimes there'll be reasons why you might even use the two. Let's say something like this. Let me say I want to save. Let me say here I want to store this string. I want to say it's raining. It's raining. Look at this. Now we are having an error. Why? Because we have these single quotes, and when you open a single quote and close to a single quote, the ending single quote is you're actually telling that, okay, this is the end of this string. But you're having it here and you're also having it here. That is confused. Now, if you want to do something like this, you either, if you want to use a single quote inside here, just like we are using it, and we're having a single quote, you either use a double quote to start your string and end your string. You can see we no longer have that error again. So if you want to use double quotes inside, use single quotes outside. If you want to use single quote inside, use double quote outside. What do I mean? Here, I want to use single quote inside, so I'm using double quote. What if I want to use double quotes? What if for some reasons, I want to do this? For some reasons, I want to do this. What will happen? There's an error here. So if I want to do this, I will simply use the single quote. All right, there is no problem here, okay? So if you still want to use the single quotes or double quotes, but you don't want to use the single quote outside, you can use the backslash character. It is something like this. And there will be no problem. You can see there's no problem here. You're using the backslash character, okay, to actually escape character, sorry. This is called escape character. We also have other escape characters, but this is the backslash escape character, okay? So when I print this is what we are going to print out. This is what it will look like, okay? So if I run this is what it will look like. It's raining, so my single quote was preserved, okay? So I believe you understand this. If there's any confusion, please chat me up so that I can explain more. Okay, so now there's something else we also call string concatenation. You have two strings and you want to concatenate them. You want to add them. So let's say this is my first name. Let me use first name. This is my first name. My first name is Paulson. And my last name is Waha. All right. And I want to print these two. I want to concatenate them. I want them to be one. And I can put them here, string, and I'll say full name. So for me to concatenate them, I will do first name plus last name. Wow, wonderful. And I can print full name, but something funny will happen here, and I'll talk about it later after it happens. Look at it, right? Concatenation, we are using plus to concatenate. It's called string concatenation. You use the plus operator to concatenate, all right? To concatenate the two strings. Okay, so if I print, we are going to have this. But you can see what we have here, there is no space. So if I want to add space, what do? I can simply do this. I add space like this in between. So it's string concatenation, all right? So, and I get this. I get a space in between, okay? So this is what we mean by string concatenation. There's something you need to understand too, all right? It's called string interpolation. String interpolation, okay? If you see here, to concatenate these two strings, I'm using plus plus. It can be too much, okay? Let me comment this. Okay, let me comment this line. Sorry. Let me comment this line and use string concatenation. Let me use string concatenation. If you want to use string concatenation, how do you do it? Either single quote or double quotes, put them in. So you can now use the, if you don't want to use the plus, what you do is this. You use the $sign and write in put your first name. Then you make a space so that there will be space in between, and you do another $sign and put your last name. And if we do this, it is correct. All right, so this is string interpolation. Here, I didn't use the plus to concatenate them. I used the string interpolation, this $sign, to add them, and I added a space in between, but they have to be inside a double quote or a single quote. So if I run this now, I will get the desired result, okay? So this is string interpolation. You use the $sign. Just look at the way I did it. Try doing your own, and you will get it. Okay. So this is small to it. All right. This is it. This is basic things you can do with the data types. Okay, and the kind of operations you can perform on them. So, like I said, request for the PDF textbook I'm talking about. And another thing I will be doing is this. There are some challenges, okay, I will be doing so that it can help us to assimilate this thing very well. Okay, so I will start that, in those challenges, we are just going to be solving real problems. We're just going to be doing exercises, and I will be doing that. And in that challenges, I will be giving you your own challenge to do. Okay, so that's the series I would also start, and I will just have to put it in my schedule, and I'll find a way to be doing it. It will really help every one of us here. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending this class. Always make sure you are subscribed so that you'll be getting daily updates. Okay, make sure you're subscribed, like, share. I don't know if you're not liking it, that means you shouldn't even be watching it if you don't like what I'm doing. But if you like what I'm doing, you should like, you should share. If you don't like it, no problem, but there is no need you being here. Okay, so if you like it, share, like, share with your friends. This is it. Share with your friends. This is free. Share with your friends so that they can also learn this. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you in the next class. Make sure you practice all these things we have done here, and I'll see you in the next class. Have a great day.